Hello, so in this video we will be going over what is a lending protocol and how far have I gotten in implementing it into the website, right? So to be clear, a lending protocol smart contract is not anything new, right? It's just a small piece of what I need to get what I want or to try to build the app that I'm trying to build, right? The OG lending protocol is Aave, right? It's open source OG lending protocol. They have currently like $68 billion in deposits across 14 different networks, all Ethereum based. They're not on Solana, but yeah, right. The way like that this works essentially is you have people who are making deposits, right? And you can earn interest on your deposits, but you can also borrow against your deposits, and you pay, you have to pay an interest rate, right? Because it's essentially a loan, but it is it's an overly collateralized loan. Like say you have $100 in Bitcoin that you deposit, then you can take out $70, like 70% of the value in like a stable coin or anything really, right? So these are all basically over collateralized loans, and that is how the interest is paid. It's paid by people borrowing. So there is no interest being generated for the people depositing unless someone's borrowing and paying the interest, presumably, unless it's being subsidized by something. You can see this borrow rate is actually less than the supply rate, but they must be also throwing in some token or something. But whatever. Some other quick things. Just I know like most people, or even less people, are less fluent in crypto, but right, this wrapped BTC, WBTC, you may have seen that on the website recently as I've updated the markets, right? Wrapped BTC it's just BTC, it's just Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is on the Bitcoin network, and when it leaves the Bitcoin network and goes to any other network, it has to be wrapped basically, right? It uses a bridge smart contract, which essentially locks the Bitcoin, and then it mints wrapped BTC that can be used on the destination network. And if somebody wants to take wrapped BTC, send it back, the wrapped BTC gets burned, and then the BTC gets unlocked that they could use on the Bitcoin network. And you know, people are just basically depositing into the bridge and crossing and blah blah blah, and people can have like a bunch of fees and stuff for bridge. If I can, uh, you know, toll trolls or whatever. But yeah, and wrapped ETH is the same. It's just Ethereum. This is technically wrapped Sol because you need a token to interact with a smart contract, but we just say Sol, or most websites do because we're on the Solana network. But this is technically Sol. I assume the same thing is uh, also true on Aave. But yeah, that's just essentially all it is, right? The fees are not coming out of nowhere. There are absolutely no meme coins here. These are all actually coins for their specific networks. And USDC is a stable coin, right? It's owned by Coinbase. Um, well, it's owned by Circle, which is like a subsidiary of Coinbase, right? And it is highly audited. It is every dollar of USDC coin is backed by an actual dollar in the real world, right? It's not an algorithmic stable coin like LST. I did lose a lot of money on LST. Don't actually ask me how much, but I learned my lesson with algorithmic stable coin. So the problem with USDC, let me just go grab one of these and search for it. Just to be clear, there is a problem if we're being open and honest. Global states, I just want the address, this one. We search for it. Well, this is on DevNet, but on mainnet, same problem. The token min address is how you can identify, a coin, and we're on DevNet. We need to switch to mainnet. Right, so this is USDC coin owned by Circle, right? The problem is that there is a freeze authority on it, and that means that Circle/Coinbase would be able to freeze your money maybe at the behest of Trump, right? So that's the problem with it. It is a centralized stablecoin, but it's very safe and audited. It has lost its peg only once, and that is when Silicon Valley Bank, went under and the government bailed it out. So it felt like 70 cents if you would have bought it, and then shot back up to $1. Amazing. Anyway, DAI is a decentralized stablecoin, right? It is an over collateralized stablecoin from the Ethereum network. This is actually bridged DAI or wrapped DAI. Doesn't have a good name, and there can be different bridges, and every bridge has its own token mint address, right? So there could be a different version of wrapped BTC, and there's like an old version of it that people don't use as much. But this one, well, the token mint address that you should use should be the one that has the highest volume, trading volume and activity or whatever. But yeah, anyway, DAI is a decentralized stablecoin, so yeah, that should keep Coinbase in check because that's kind of the joke. If Coinbase ever did like freeze anybody's funds, they would die. That is what would happen. That is exactly what would happen to Coinbase. So not too worried about it, and there's a backup for that. Anyway, so that's basically it as far as as far as what it is on a high level. So let's try looking at it on a lower level, and let's go to good old AI and just get the quick definition. What are the basic functions used in Aave's lending protocol? Also like margin fi. Last time I asked this, it asked it. It gave it, yeah, way more details. What about liquidation functions? Liquidation functions and repay functions. I wish it would have just gave me the 5 basic functions. But yeah, that's a problem with AI. Never really giving the same answer and stuff. And it'll definitely give you the wrong answers. Well, that's just dandy. But something else that I wanted to point out before I forgot. I don't know what this is. Right? This is MarginFi. Was trying to give them a benefit of the doubt. But I went back to their website, and now there's this fake phantom pop-up that's like asking for seed words. It doesn't even have the eyeballs right. And I just want to make sure that this is real, because as far as I can tell, it's coming from their website, and that's just horrible. I don't even know how that happened. I googled it. MarginFi should be the same. But yeah, no, that is I can't. It's like, how the fuck did that happen? Important update. That is not the Phantom app. This is the Phantom app. This is coming from the website. This is not a real wallet. I don't know what the fuck that is. That is a scam. That is why. So yeah, no, if I wasn't sure that there was something wrong with MarginFi before, I'm absolutely sure now. Like, holy shit. Right? They have the scam document. Right? If I were to Oh man, I don't even know if I've been recording this whole time. Okay, but anyway, it's like here. It's like the setbacks and stuff. Yeah, if you go to their documents to unstake, they have this link to a scam website. So I don't know. It just seems even worse. It seems even worse now. I have never seen this before, but that is horrible. Okay, I gave that the once over. The problem seems to be that even though this says marginfi.com, it is not marginfi.com. It's like marginfi.portfolio.com. And it's a top fucking result, but the second one is the actual one that's real, but I don't know. I mean, that could not be MarginFi possibly. So, yeah, possibly not MarginFi. Right, because this one says MarginFi dash portfolio. It is not. It's not real. Oh, it's not the real website. The real website is when this launches the app. Let's see. Yeah, just app.marginfi. There's no dash portfolio in it. Yeah, you don't actually have to connect your wallet to see anything. But okay. I don't know. Can't completely blame them for that just yet. That could be somebody random just spoofing a thing, because I think that does happen. So I'm going to retract that again. Still incompetent. There's still other things that are incompetent. Okay, so anyway, let's just jump into the code of the contract, talk about what's there and what's missing. Yeah. AI was not being helpful. Anyway, right, so we have our security message for our program ID. Not super important. I guess we'll just talk about the functions. We've talked about errors before, I guess. But what's really important is the functions and how it's working. So let's just talk about that. We have the initialized lending protocol. This can only be called by the initial CEO address, which is hard-coded into the contract, right? And this sets that address on the CEO account, right? Very basic. But there's probably some other accounts that get created as well, right? The lending protocol CEO, and the submarket stats. There's just nothing to put on them at the time, but they do all get initialized when that gets called. Pass on the lending protocol CEO, like only the current CEO can call it, and they pass on the CEO. It's just like in all the other contracts, passing on the CEO or passing on anything. Nothing too special. Add a token reserve. So this can only be called by the CEO. As far as the UI is concerned, right? Yeah, only the CEO can do that. I'm not connected. I don't even think I'm gonna need to switch to. But yeah, since only the CEO can call it, it prevents someone from adding a token like, say, GigaChad or a Trump meme coin. Only coins that I say, or tokens that I say are okay, which are basically the ones that I had showed. Right, where the heck are you at? This one. I'm on the actual website and not the locally hosted one, like a dummy. I'm expecting it to. I guess it wouldn't have mattered, but yeah. So I have to refresh it anyway. Okay, well anyway, so it's already been initialized, right? And there's this little UI here. I haven't really messed with this color and stuff, where you can add the token min address and the amount of decimals that the token has, which is, like a dollar, you can only have like a penny, right? You have 2 decimal places that you can have at most, but in crypto, different tokens can have like way more decimals, and you can use that to help you do the math, basically, so that you don't lose any precision. So that's basically it, right? And there's one token that's been added on DevNet, just USDC, at this min address. Okay, and there are 4 submarkets. Anyway, back. So now that you have a token reserve, that's essentially saying, right, at this min address, this decimal amount, how many decimals it has. Let's see, and we increase the number of token reserves. Like, oh, there's another token reserve. We add a number, we log that, and that's basically it. And just a little bit of logging. Nothing too special. Right? That's just saying which coins are okay. CEO says which coins are okay. Delete, that probably won't stay there. Create a submarket. So once you have a token, you say which tokens are okay, you can create a submarket based on that token, right? And this works different on different protocols, right? For Aave allows developers to build on its platform, right? They can borrow and lend, but I don't believe that Aave gives anything to the developers as far as letting them set a fee or whatever. Solend definitely does. Solend developer. I might have had that somewhere. Yeah, this, right. So the way that Solend does it, this is on Solana, kind of like Margin5, but not Margin5, it's on Solana. But they allow other developers to, you integrate with their lending protocol, and it allows you to set an address that can collect a 20% fee just for borrows. So there is theirs is specifically for borrowing. I don't think Margin5 gives you. I don't think Aave gives you anything at all. Margin5 allows you to set a fee, and I assume that I don't know if that's on interest earned or how theirs worked exactly, and I don't know if they're taking a cut of it or not. But I definitely will not be, right. I want to incentivize developers to, they can, build upon the platform, and then we can grow the liquidity together, basically. And I wouldn't be taking any of their fees, and then they could use their fees for, maybe they pick a different a different state, right? Or maybe they don't want to, have it be in healthcare. Maybe they want to buy someone a used car or a meal or something else. There's a ton of bills that you could pay of other people's, right? Okay, so I also have the sub-market index, and this just allows developers to have more than one market for the same token min address that they're trying to make the market for. Right, this is the sub-market, the seeds for it, right? The seeds are, unique words or numbers that make up an account, right? So for the token reserve, for this program, the token reserve is just a token min address, right? Because every token has its own min address, and it's unique, and there's only going to be one kind of it. And that's just the CEO saying that this token is okay, so there only needs to be one kind. So there's not an index as well on here. There doesn't need to be an index. But there's an index on here that allows the user, right? This is the signer. Whenever this is called and the signer is a part of the seeds, that means the person who is calling the function, their public key is a part of the account. And that's just how the uniqueness of it works. There's also a word, and then there's a token min address, which is the reserve that the CEO said was okay. This is the person calling it, and the index that they're calling it for, right? They might, as mentioned, right? This is where it's really important, or I really needed it, because we have our treasury accounts. We'll have our normal markets where there's a 3% fee on interest, but when it comes to the single payer treasury, the HODL treasury will have to deposit its funds into a market where the fee is 100%, and the single payer account is the fee recipient. They will be the one who is allowed to take away that 100% fee. So I can have two markets, and the only one that on my website that would want to have 100% of their interest earned taken away would be this, unless people just felt like donating the interest earned, right? Not their deposit, but yeah, sure, I would give people the option, whatever. But anyway, yes, that's why it's important to have different sub-markets on the same token. And other people, the developers, if they want to make a sub-market, they could do it right here in the UI and make their own sub-markets. And this just kind of shows all of the ones that are there. This first table shows the token reserves. It's USDC that's been made. There are 4 submarkets. You could create a submarket with a fee between 0% and 100%. You just put in the fee recipient. By default, it's the public key that's signing, but you could change it to be the public key of whatever wallet you want to be able to take the fees out. And you can also view the markets, and these shows the owners of markets. They also have custom usernames from the chat protocol, but it's not so important, and I still need to look into that. Yeah, and this other one is kind of from the view of owners. It says there's 2 owners. It shows the CEO in green, the color. And this is just a user that has a custom username, where I have 3 submarkets that I created, and they created 1, and you could just see them, and it says what token it was for, USDC. The fee collector, the person who was allowed to collect fees from their submarket. And if you wanted to edit your market here, you could change it, but whatever. Trying to make it easy for people, but you would still, like, my markets would be my markets, right? I wouldn't be putting someone else's markets on my website. They would have to have their own markets on their own website with their own reason for it and explaining that out to the users and blah blah blah. And that is, and you wouldn't have to deploy your own contract that way when you're building on someone else's contract, assuming that you trust that company or person or whatever. But as far as the cost so far, I guess that's pretty important, because you wouldn't have to deploy a contract. You could just work on off of someone else's contract, basically. Let me just see. It's not done yet, but let's just see what the size is and how much it currently costs. I mean, it's currently cheaper than the other ones. I am not there. CD, Linux, CD, lending. I got this size, which is pretty close to the price. Solana rent, that number. That number is 3 Sol. Sol is currently worth what? It's like $200. It's like $600 currently to deploy this contract. That's $600 you wouldn't have to spend because you would just be working off of my contract, basically. And I think that's actually a very good way to do contracts, to make them in a way that other people can build off of them, not have to spend money again, right? Having said that, I mentioned this before, but I guess just a lot of information when it comes to my contracts. If I were to, like, say, take the chat protocol, this contract, and we can just go look at it on DevNet, because I think this is important for clarity. Somewhere, there is a thing open. I mean, it's there on both of them, so this should be fine. You can see I have my security text included. I just looked at the program ID on mainnet. Yeah, security text, not important. But anyway, the important things, right? The important things that you should look for when looking at a contract's ID is it a verified build? Mine is not. And is it upgradable? And mine is also upgradable. If a contract is upgradable, that means that someone can change the contract, right, later on and potentially fuck you over if they're untrustworthy, dirty assholes. And the verified build is a way to verify that, like, this repository is where the code came from. Like, they have the same hash. And, yeah, it actually... When I did the chat protocol, which is extra beefy, I might actually slim it down some, right? Because I think it was like $4,000 to deploy. It would have been an extra $1,200 to do the fucking verified build, which is why I didn't do it at the time. But as far as being upgradable, once you have everything in the contract, you can make it not upgradable. But without the verified build, you can't be completely sure that the contract that's deployed at this code base is the contract that you're interacting with. Yeah, you can make it not upgradable if you're sure that your code doesn't have any bugs in it that could let something bad happen. But I was going to wait until after the beta to make the contracts not upgradable. And if I wanted to have a new contract, that is why I have the contract switcher with different versions, which is what Aave used to do. But now Aave only uses upgradable, and everybody only uses upgradable contracts. So I was going to try not to do that. That was the original thought. I saw how expensive it was, but if my company was, doing well, I don't think it would be that costly to deploy another contract. It's just the issue of you have people's money deposited into this contract, not that contract. But yeah, that was basically the thoughts there. So anyway, those are the things that you want to look for. Let's keep moving on, making this video long, but a lot of information, right? Lending, go back up to create. Right, you set that, you can edit it, and right, when you create it, the owner gets set on the person that called it, the signer, and the signer's public key is also a part of the seed, and that is where the security is. You don't have to worry about someone else editing your submarket. This, checks the submarket, that owner to make sure that the person signing, the person who is calling the edit, that it's the same person as the owner that created it. And also the seeds, when you go to edit it, the seed is going to be made of the person who signed it anyway. So if the account didn't exist, right, like, yeah, it can only be yours. If you're calling it, it has to exist. It better be your account. It's that. So all of that, that's how that works, basically. And you edit it, and you can change the recipient or the fee on interest earned currently. Yeah, I showed the edit. Deposit tokens. I don't have anything for depositing yet or withdrawing in the UI, rather. But I guess we can talk about that. So we can talk about what's missing. So the way that it traditionally works, right? The deposits and withdrawals. I guess the deposit's pretty simple. Man. So there is another account called an obligation account, right? When a user interacts with a token reserve that includes depositing or withdrawing, then that is when the obligation account gets made. Not when you're making a sub, not when a developer is making a sub market, right? And the obligation account will keep track of basically what the user has deposited in it. It'll also have a timestamp. I don't have a timestamp in it, but it'll have a timestamp, I guess, for the last interaction. This is something that's actually different that I noticed that the other protocols are doing, Solon and Margin Fi, where it seems like they're actually keeping all of the deposits and feeding them in, and just doing an increasing amount more of math, which seems unnecessary if you just take care of it when the next thing comes. But I don't know. I'm not that far in, so I'll have to see. But yes, you have deposits and you have a borrow amount. There's also a user account index. This is just in case a user wants to have more than one borrowing and lending account. And I'll show you what that looks like in a UI, since Margin Fi is doing that, and I want it to have what they had. If we not sign into any. Here, portfolio. Why is it stuck when I need it not to be stuck? Okay, user, don't see it. Right, well, you have deposits and borrows, but maybe you want another account that has deposits and borrows, but you don't want to have another wallet, basically. Account. I guess this is where they let you add another account, right? Or maybe you want to do it for a family member, but you don't want to have another wallet. You just make another account and you put the deposits, and you just work your deposits and lending from that. That is what the account index is for, basically, which isn't worked out, but that is what that's going to be for. The owner, who this obligation is for, the token min address, the token reserve that it's associated with, submarket that it's associated with, and stuff. And this obligation index. I guess I just really want to give a high-level overview, right? So when it comes to depositing, right, you'll deposit, it'll create an obligation, it'll say how much you have deposited, it'll create a timestamp. So this is something that's interesting about all of it, because when I've seen like websites where it has like the interest counting up, I always thought that there was like a ticker or something, but no, it's literally just a timestamp, right? So let's say you deposit $10, you wait 10 minutes. When you go back to deposit it later, that's when, and you call the withdraw function, that is when it will look at the timestamp, look at what the interest rate was, and then calculate how much you can withdraw at that time, basically. And yeah, I think that you can just do that instead of having all of the deposit and doing an increasing number of math, right? Because you don't have to do anything until the user does something else. Because let's say if they're only doing deposits, right? They deposit $10 and then they deposit $20, right? When they have that first deposit, it's fine. But when they have the second deposit, you will have to calculate the interest that has occurred so far and then add it and then start the process over with a new timestamp, which I think should be enough. That seems simple enough to just work that way. So, yeah, right? Because you couldn't calculate it later saying, oh, there's $30 and it's been in since the first deposit went in, but no, the $30 wasn't there until the second deposit. So if you just calculate the interest every time a different function is called, I think that should be enough, but that's basically the plan going forward as far as that is concerned. When it comes to withdrawals, right, the protocol is going to have to check if the user, right, how much they have deposited, right? You can't withdraw more than you've deposited. And when it comes to borrowing, right, it's an over-collateralized loan. You have to have a deposit amount, and there are things called oracles that are used in the contracts. One popular one, I think, in Solana is called Python, that will basically check the price of the token and then do the math to see, oh, is this within the 70% margin, right? And that is how you can borrow. And when you borrow, right, you have to pay interest on your borrow, right? There's an interest rate for that, and it's not constantly ticking up. There's a timestamp, right? It's really all, it's a state machine. It's just sitting there. So if your interest goes up too high and you borrow, right? Or the value of your collateral goes down too much, that opens you up to the liquidation function. And that just, it means that your assets can be sold basically if you're borrowing and you're not making repayments to keep it within good standing. And that is what keeps the protocol safety. All of them do that. The way that Aave does it, Aave actually has it kind of open to the public. Anyone can call the liquidation function, and I think they get like a small portion of the fee, like from the asset that's being sold, or you get a small portion of it or whatever. I don't think that MarginFi does it that way. They say it's done automatically, but nothing is done automatically. You have to call functions, so they must have like a bot or something. But right, so the way the liquidation function would work, it would just check your account, like it would check to see if your account can be liquidated, and then it would liquidate it, right? So the UI would just be showing you basically, right? It would be keeping track of the prices and let you know if you're open to liquidation. So the way that I'm going to do it is that I'm just going to have all of those things, all of those fees, or the liquidated assets just go straight to the treasury and just into the HODL treasury, right? So that it can generate more money for the single payer treasury, right? Because I'm still only going to make money if I can pay somebody's bill. But the faster that I can make money to pay people's bill, the faster that I can make money. So, I can make the function not just callable by the CEO, make it so that anybody can call it. I was going to just use a bot to call it and watch it. But yeah, I would still just make it so that fee just went straight to the HODL treasury. Basically, that's essentially it, I guess. There's repayment, liquidation. Yeah, when you borrow, you can make repayments to be in good standing and pay back what you borrowed when you repay. I guess that is basically it on a high level. Really, in the UI, I've only done the creating the markets and editing the markets, really. I have these new coins in here, but yeah. And getting the edits and stuff, but yeah, these tables sucked ass. Yes, so that is pretty much it. Still working on it. Yeah, there is this competition, I guess, in Solana, I guess, that happens so often, that I'm going to submit my project to see if I can get some funding for it. I did get contacted already by a VC fund, but it could be a scam, and it could also be someone that doesn't want me to be open source, and that would take away any creative ability that I would have. So I don't know. I will see. Still working on it. Gonna keep working on it. But this is like, what, on the 25th. So I got way more incentives to keep working on this. But this is just one more. So that is pretty much it. So I will see you in the next video.